Georgia, Alabama. Sports Live will be your go-to for all your favorite high school and collegiate games this fall. From the Carver Tigers to the Columbus Blue Devils, the Harris County Tigers and Northside Patriots, the Glenwood Gators and Calvary Christian Knights, the Pacelli Vikings and Brookstone Cougars, to the Smith Station Panthers and Russell County Warriors, from CVCC, Pirates basketball and baseball, and every tournament from here to Macon. We are the #1 destination for anything happening in East Alabama and West Central Georgia. Be sure to like and follow us on YouTube and Facebook, and stay tuned for even more amazing ways we will be bringing Georgia, Alabama Sports Live to you this upcoming season. We can't wait to come see you next. What's up, everyone? We're back. It's Thrift. It's Richard. It is Georgia, Alabama Sports Live Show. Big Rich, he left the entire state. He went up to Boston with his family, so it's good to have him back in the state of Georgia, where he will be back to calling games literally tomorrow night. Big Rich, how was the family vacation and the much-needed time off?
It was great just having that R&R, but also as a sports historian, it was just great just to be around Boston sports fans who live and die by the Pats, the Red Sox, the Celtics. In fact, the Celtics played the Nets about 2 miles from our hotel in Boston as they beat the Nets in overtime. And they're still talking about the Boston Red Sox winning the World Series in 2004. It is just great just being in downtown Boston yesterday, just feeling that vibe with all the Bostonians, and then just that, just the history of everything, but also, being a big sports fan, a lot of sports history as well.
Yeah, and I know you, I went there for actually my senior trip when I graduated high school, Richard. I went to Springfield, Massachusetts, which is the home of the Basketball Hall of Fame. And then I went to, obviously, where the Baseball Hall of Fame is in Cooperstown. So, and I went to a Red Sox game because this is in the summer, and to a Celtics game. So I got to experience a lot. Boston is a very historic town, not just in the terms of, football and stuff, but just in general in the history of our great nation. Boston, one of the founding, where the founding fathers were, and one of the original 13 colonies, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but I'm glad to be back. I know that we've got a lot of sports to talk about. We've got high school playoffs, and I'm just ready to go. I'm ready to get back to work.
Yep, I am too. And Big Rich, guess what? We had some playoff football this past Friday night, and we're going to be getting into that. Plus, we're dropping our new rankings.
Oh,
there
boy.
was a major upset, so we got people moving and grooving and dropping and rising up, and can't wait to get into that, Richard. And then we have the new playoff format for 2A, and we also know who Harris County's playing in Georgia. So looking forward to talking about those matchups. And, of course, got to talk about our guest real quick, Richard, who is Dana Barker, the longtime referee who also is officiated in the Super 7. This guy knows more about football than me or Richard combined. He knows the rules better than anyone I know. He also, I feel like, is a college football analyst. He works for Auburn. This guy's just a weatherman. There's really not many things he can't do. Broadcast.
PA announcer for the Dragons.
Yeah, exactly. For the Dragons. He's a voice of the Dragons. Cannot wait to have him on talk some high school football, talk about how people are reacting to referees nowadays. And I feel like that job, especially now with social media, it is tougher than ever to try to be an official nowadays, especially at the highest level in college football. But Richard, I know you're excited about talking about playoffs.
Yeah, especially, it's great having Dana on, especially in the world we live in now with social media. People are are posting like calls like on the internet. It's like, well, I can't believe, and you got to remember, and Dana will get into it. I mean, these referees are human, and sometimes they miss a call. Sometimes it's tough. I mean, especially when it's a judgment call, when it could go either way. But yeah, I was seeing some videos that people were posting on controversial calls. I'm going to call them controversial because they could have gone either way and they changed the outcome of the games. But you got to remember that these people are human.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. We don't have a graphic for it, but we're going to talk about some of the games that just happened this past weekend. Central goes to James Clemens and takes care of business, Richard. They early on in that one, it was a decent matchup, and then Central just completely took over, dominated. Still going to be on the road next week, but
actually, they are hosting Vestavia Hills because Vestavia Hills upset Mary Montgomery. So guess what? Central. So the number 4 seed.
We were talking all that trash. Yeah, Central's going to
my goodness.
On their way to the state, they're going to have luck. And then literally in the second round, Vestavia Hills upsets undefeated Mary Montgomery. And guess what? Central's going to be hosting a playoff game.
Yep.
And if they win that, I think they will be playing in the quarterfinals.
So they'll play the winner of Opelika Hoover. So now that is going to be a very tough game, and that's going to be on the road for Opelika.
I would probably want to be in Opelika. But big win, Andrew Alford and the offense, 70 points scored on James Clemens. And if you want to write Central off, you can. I'm not.
Nope. They're road warriors.
Just as good a chance as any team left in 7A to win a championship.
Yeah, there's no question. Putting up 70 points on the road, and it just goes to show why Central is in the best region in 7A. There's no question. And we'll get into it. Auburn and Opelika also advance, and Enterprise. So all 4 teams that made the playoffs in Central's region all advanced. How about that?
And let's talk about Auburn and Opelika. They both win big, so they both move on to the next round. Could we have somehow, some way, 3 of the 4 teams in the semifinals?
We might have all 4 in the semifinal. I do want to say Auburn, huge win over Bob Jones. They play Thompson next. This is going to be at Auburn. Thompson lost 3 games. Did you know that Thompson lost all 3 games in overtime?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they lost to Grayson to start the year. With the border war between the Alabama's best and Georgia's best. It was televised on ESPN. They lost to Grayson 15-14. They lose to Miguel Tulin, and they lose. I want to say they lost to Hewitt Trustful, but Thompson ended up losing 3 games this year, so they ended up getting the number 2 seed, which means that they will go on the road to face Auburn, which is a rematch of the 2022 state championship and 2020 state championship.
Exactly. And I would not be surprised if there's an upset brewing, but Coach Etheridge's team, I honestly think this is his best chance to win a state. Since he's been there, he has not won state at Auburn, but that's not saying it's not going to happen this year as they're the number 1 team in 7A. Russell County took down Northridge 42-25. Another great game for Bryson Riggins. Unfortunately for them, they got to go on the road and play Spain Park, who's
undefeated
and one of the best teams in the entire state. But, man, what a win for them. Their first playoff win since the late 90s. And Richard, now Russell County will go to 9-2. And I'm not going to say they can't upset Spain Park. It's going to be a tall task. Spain Park's a great team, but Russell County's been up to the challenge all year long. They go to 9-2. Good win for them over Northridge. How about Dylan Griggs and the Warriors?
Well, I mean, the path to get to the state championship is going to be tough. I mean, Spain Park, like you mentioned, 11-0 on the season. But, you never can count out a Bryson Riggins-led team that can light up the scoreboard. And, if Russell County peaking at the right moment, I mean, that was a big win for them. To win their first playoff game, since 1998. I mean, that was the last time they actually won a playoff game, hosted a playoff game. They are 9-2. I mean, the last time they won 10 games was in 1998. They're making history here, and that place was absolutely lit. I cannot believe how many fans were at Russell County. Talking about Spain Park, if they're able to get past Spain Park, there's a possible matchup against Saraland in the quarterfinals. But we're kind of thinking ahead. I mean, you got to understand how talented all the teams in 6A are. I do want to correct myself, Thrift. Thompson lost to Hoover and Clay Chalkville by 1 point. So their 3 losses were a combined total of 3 points in overtime.
Wow.
All 3 games in overtime.
The other team that played and hosted a playoff game in Alabama, 3A, undefeated Glenwood Gators. What a phenomenal year, 9-0.
Great year.
And they came in, I thought, heavy favorites against after doing the research, Alabama Christian team that is known for their football program. And the Gators, just too many turnovers. They couldn't overcome it, Richard. Turnovers, a couple penalties that went against them, unsportsmanlike penalties, and a team that was, I thought, destined for greatness and maybe winning a championship, loses 46-42 to Alabama Christian, and they'll go to 7-4. That's Alabama Christian, Richard. But, man, tough one for the Gators. Second straight year they're undefeated in the regular season and losing in the playoffs. And this time they lose to Alabama Christian. They're going to go on to play Bayside next week. But this, I did not expect this at all. They were up big in that first half. Levi Pender, the offense, they did not look like they were going to be stopped. They put up 35 in the first half. They only scored 7 in the second half. And they were outscored in the second half 21-7, Richard, and ended up losing this game by 4.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. They were to finesse on script. It couldn't get any better for Levi Pender and that offense to go up 28-7. But like you mentioned, the turnovers, the penalties, Alabama Christian Academy hung around. And when they got that turnover and Alabama Christian Academy got the ball back and went up 46-42, I mean, Glenwood had their chance to try to win the game. I mean, we're proud of Glenwood for, making that transition to the AHSAA to go undefeated. But, I mean, this is a huge upset. When you look back at, like, the, high school playoffs from, like, the neutral side, like when you're not have any ties to any teams, you look at the 2 teams and you think Glenwood, top team, ranked in 3A, losing to a 6-4 Alabama Christian Academy team. This is a huge upset. But this just goes to show that Alabama Christian Academy never gave up, even when they were down big. And some of the things that, Glenwood's just going to have to, clean up, the mistakes of. But I think that Glenwood will learn from this, and they're going to continue just to be a powerhouse in 3A.
I'm never going to doubt Ryan.
No, not at all.
But this has got to be a sore spot.
It's devastating.
Last year, being undefeated and heading in the state championship and not able.
Well, they actually did. They did lose to Chambers Academy in the regular season.
Yeah, but
they were undefeated in the region.
You're right. I forgot they did lose to Rick Chambers, and they end up losing in that state championship game to Lee Scott. And this year finished undefeated in the regular season. I keep forgetting that they lost to Chambers last year. But either way, tough loss for the Gators. They go down to 9-1 on the season. Still a great year for them.
Yeah.
This is not the way they wanted to be able to finish. And I want to say great call, Mike Peacock. A great job by Chris Gates. We're partnering with the NFHS network, and we were able to bring you the game on the NFHS network. So great job by those guys. But Gators, tough loss. Richard, on the Georgia side, the Brookstone Cougars. And
great
the Cougars, I was there on the call with Rick Beach, and Brookstone get a great win against Stratford. What an offensive game plan. One of the most balanced offensive attacks I've seen in a game. They threw when they needed to. Broughton Branch didn't make any mistakes. They had a great running attack led by Terry and Gray Jones. The offensive line had great push. The defense made stops. They had an interception on the first play from scrimmage and scored on the second play and with a rushing touchdown. They ended up winning this one 33-28. They were in control of the game from start to finish. Now they got to go on the road and take on a team that beat Pacelli pretty handily, but we'll stick here with Brookstone. Richard, I was just so impressed with Coach Gillespie's team, and I would not be surprised if they're holding the championship trophy. They're my favorite this upcoming week in the semifinals, but great win for the Cougars last Friday night, 33-28 over Stratford. Second time they beat them this year.
Yeah, we say all the time on this show that a Rance Gillespie coach team is, basically he's a quarterback whisperer. Whether it's Andrew Alford or Brooks Roney last year, Broughton Branch, who comes in, I believe he's only a sophomore, right, Thrift? That Broughton Branch is only a sophomore?
Only a sophomore.
Yeah, incredible. And then it's not just the quarterback play; it's the defense. It's Terry at the running back. It's Mercer Hudson. I mean, they have just some dynamic players, and they beat Bullock Academy on the road last year. And I think that they could do the same. Remember, they beat them as a number 7 seed because they upset Pacelli in the Sweet 16. So right now, Brookstone, number 3 seed, going up against Bullock Academy in Statesboro. I like their chances.
I like their chances too. And by the way, talking about Bullock beat Pacelli 37-0. Now, this was surprising to me because I actually had Pacelli.
Yeah, it was.
I had them upsetting and had Bullock on upset alert, and they just took care of business. They dominated from start to finish. And Bullock Academy, who didn't have the toughest strength of schedule, undefeated in the regular season, now moves to 10-0. They're going to want revenge on Brookstone, and Brookstone's trying to go to Statesboro 2 weeks in a row because guess what? If they win this week and Bullock Academy's in Statesboro, they will then go back to Statesboro the next week for the state championships at Georgia Southern that me and Richard will be on the call for GIAA.TV. But Bullock takes down Brookstone. I mean, Pacelli. Pacelli will finish now 5-6. I hate that for Coach Jones. They had to overcome a lot of injuries. Jason Nelson, their leading rusher, was out. Their quarterback, they were on their 4th-string quarterback. I mean, 3rd-string, excuse me. They had to overcome a lot. And the fact they even made it to the quarterfinals, I've been impressed with Coach Jones and that staff. But Bullock was just too much for them, and their season ends in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, it's really just a season of what ifs because Pacelli, even though they started out the season 0-2, they beat First Presbyterian Day, which was the number 1 team in the GIAA. And I think if they weren't, plagued by the injury bug, I think that Pacelli could have got a little bit further in the playoffs and had a winning record. They also played a tough schedule. I mean, they played like Whitfield Academy, which is a GHSA school, which, by the way, Whitfield Academy is in the playoffs for the private for the GHSA. So that's a really good team, facing like really good teams like Westfield School that might win the state championship in 3A.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they had a tough schedule. I know that their record doesn't reflect the type of team that Pacelli was, but yeah, it was hard to overcome the injuries.
Yeah, and again, these were all the games that we had in our area because remember, the Georgia public schools had an extra week for those who were affected by Hurricane Helene. None of the schools that we cover, they basically just had an extra bye. We did learn, and now we did learn the new playoff bracket.
We have the brackets.
And we also know the teams that are in and that are out. And we're going to make you stay because we're going to take a quick break. When we come back from break, we're going to talk to Dana Barker. And then when we end the show, we're actually going to talk about who are the upcoming matchups for Auburn, Opelika, and Central in Alabama and Russell County. And in Georgia, the playoff matchups for Shaw, Spencer, Carver, and Harris County. Yep, a team got left off that we didn't think would. We'll talk about that and more on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, Gordy Eye Care, Pepsi. We'll be right back after this.
Football is back, and the only thing that makes it better is some delicious food from Zaxby's. They're a proud sponsor of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And I can tell you that everyone on this team loves their chicken. Get all the favorites, such as their signature chicken sandwich, or try the new chicken finger tacos with your favorite drink. From amazing salads, wings, chicken fingers, and some of the best drinks around, there isn't a better way to enjoy our broadcast without getting some fantastic meals from Zaxby's. Check out the two here in Phoenix City, one off Crawford Road and the other on US 80. Thank you again to Zaxby's for sponsoring Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and make sure you call them for all your catering and tailgating needs this football season.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you again to Justin Humphreys and Zaxby's for their continued support of what we do this year on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. All right, without further ado, let's bring him on. He is someone that I love very dearly, knows the rules and regulations and everything that comes in the sport of football. He is the referee extraordinaire, weatherman. I mean, he's got about 9 different titles. His name is Dana Barker. DB, what is going on, man? Dana, you're muted. You're muted.
There we go. You want to start that over? Start the segment over?
Yeah, let's start it over again.
My bad.
Come back with the picture up, Dana, so we can. I know you wanted to do something.
Okay.
With that.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Let's redo it again. Now, bring it on, referee extraordinaire, weatherman, and just all in all, a good friend of mine. His name is Dana Barker. DB,
what up? What up? Oh, wait, we're live, aren't we? We can't record. We can't record this and go back. Sorry. No, anyway, the beauty of live podcasting. Okay. Awesome.
Exactly right. That's why I love it when we do, because we show that we're human and
absolutely
things happen, man. Things happen. But thank you so much for joining us. We've been meaning to do this for a long time, but I know it's been a busy season for you. I guess we'll start there. How's the season been in terms of an official, from y'all's perspective, in the eyes of an official? How's it been this year for high school football?
Fast. It's been a fast one. I mean, it's been really quick. I mean, I feel like August was like 10 minutes ago, and now we're in the postseason, second season, of course, second week of games here in Alabama. Of course, we got we had Auburn at home, a Blank at home. This week we got Auburn at home, Central at home. We've got a lot of games in our local area. Eufaula's at home down the road. No, you guys don't cover them, but that's a 45-minute drive away from Columbus. That's in the Columbus DMA, if you will. So covering that as well. Beauregard had a home game. They fell to Eufaula. Now Eufaula is down playing, right? Yeah, they played Eufaula, I believe. Now Eufaula is hosting Viger down there. So yeah, and then Georgia, of course, getting cranked up. Didn't do as much as I wanted to this year on the Georgia side of things because we had a jam-packed schedule in Alabama. It was kind of weird. Our association either had like 2 or 3 games or we had like 6 or 7 games, and we were helping out. I had a lot of games down the Wiregrass, helped those guys out. We got a good relationship with them. And basically this year, after being in Tuscaloosa last year, kind of being the top of the mountain, it's kind of all about, partnerships and friendships and collaboration and trying to, help other people get to where they want to go in terms of being a good official.
Dana, with the additions of Lee Scott and Glenwood in the AHSAA, how much more games had you and your officials had to do as far as officiating all the AHSA games around the area?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a bigger load for us. Of course, we had Lee Scott. There's actually an association out of Phoenix City that took Glenwood. We kind of had a conversation about that. We kind of have a handshake agreement. We don't go after each other's schools. Alabama is unlike Georgia now. Georgia, the central office in Thomaston assigns the schools out to all the associations. In Alabama, you basically have to sell yourself to the schools. Say, hey, we want to work your games. We set up a contract with the high schools. People say there's good things out of that, and of course we can think of there's bad things out of that too. But we enjoy the partnership, and we partner with the association out of Phoenix City. We've helped them out a lot. They've helped us out sometimes as well. But having both those schools right in our backyard, both of them, was a pretty increased workload for sure.
And seeing this year, man, and calling, we called a lot of games. All right. And I will say this, it seemed like there are more social media referees than there ever has been before. Okay. And I just want to stick in the high school ranks because I don't think people understand as much as you do, Dana, to make sure your guys are prepared. This is a secondary job. They have full-time jobs elsewhere. So they are doing this solely because, Alabama High School the Public School Association needs officials. Okay.
Right.
That's one reason. Another reason is obviously for it to be side money. But what's your thought, man, on just the reaction you've seen outside of the referee association when talking about officials, especially in high school this year?
It's a snowball. It's a slippery slope, man. And number one, you hit the nail on the head. It's not our vocation. It's our avocation. It's not our full-time bread and butter. It's something we do for the love of the game. And like I always tell people, if you're doing it for a paycheck, you're not doing it for the right reasons, because it's not going to be that much. And you're going to wait till the end of the year to get it from us, at least in December. But even backing up past the fans, It starts with the people like you and Richard and the people that bring these games to the audiences. The broadcasters have to know these rules of high school football. I don't know how many times I've gone back because I'm a student. I watch myself. What I do is I go home and I go sit on my deck. My wife hates me. I go sit on the deck and I watch the game for, I analyze how I did for like 3 hours. I'm not in bed until 2 a.m. after a Friday night game. But I don't know how many announcers will tell me, well, not tell me, but will say on the air, oh, well, the ball was uncatchable. Why is it pass interference? Not a Friday rule. Oh, why isn't that automatic first down for pass interference? Not a Friday rule. I called intentional grounding on a kid who was out of the box. So that's one qualification. The second qualification, though, the ball's across the line of scrimmage when he passes it. Mm-hmm. He threw it to his coach, who was about 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So I still threw the flag. The broadcaster's going off about, oh, he was out of the pocket. That's a terrible call. Number one thing I think needs to happen in both states, the announcers, and you guys do a heck of a job. I'm not talking about present company excluded. I think you guys know the rules more than a lot of folks do, but you need to know the rules of high school football. When I went to media days for East Alabama over in Opelika, I brought a stack of rule books and a stack of case books, and I passed them out. I said, guys, there are a ton of rules that are different from what you watch on Saturday and what you watch on Sunday. And there's even a difference between college and NFL.
Right.
They're trying to make the high school game like the college game because, number one, to get rid of those, broadcasters, announcers that are watching two different rule sets and trying to apply it. Number two, we're getting short on officials in both levels, right? Yeah. So the transferability of somebody that wants to work their way up makes it easier. So to read two different rule books that are entirely different. But I wish, and I want to impress upon both Montgomery and Thomaston, let's get these broadcasters trained up on what high school and FHS rules are. Number one. So I can circle down the fans. Number two, I think as well, coaches now, you look at some of these salaries. I mean, the public school salaries for coaches it's public record. I looked at the article for Georgia, and there's some guys making over $200K in the state of Georgia, and there's plenty of guys making six figures coaching wise, which I think is great because it brings revenue to the schools, and it gives kids a chance to help out and give back, and it gives kids an avenue that they might not have had before. And they're great mentors and they're great leaders of men. I'm not hating on coaches for making that much, but the pressure is more and more to win because their job depends on it now. So if they have a bad game, what's the easiest thing to blame? What's the easiest thing for coaches and fans to point to? Officials.
You.
So we have younger guys and we have guys who have rabbit ears still, and they get kind of upset because they don't understand. They're talking to, like, a good friend of mine who's a great official who refereed college said, they're not talking to the shirt, or they're not talking to you, they're talking to the shirt. They're talking to the official. They're talking to you as an official, not you as Dana Barker. So we lose those officials. We get younger and more inexperienced officials. We got to put those younger and more inexperienced officials in ball games, and it's kind of just a snowball effect rolling down a hill. So, and then rinse and repeat. So, basically, number one, understanding we're human. Number two, just know what we're up against. I know that was a very long-winded answer, but it's been a tough year for that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you answered. That's the reason I wanted to have you on, man. And I think a couple things I just took away from this interview, and I'm like, you know what? Why don't, especially us, I try to do a good job and not speculating or I try to put myself in a referee's shoes when there are calls, and especially if I don't understand the call, I'm not going to criticize it. So if I don't understand, and I know I should be a little bit better up on the rules, but I think you're not going to criticize an official that knows way more about the rule book, and if there should be a flag called there or not, than I do. And then I don't want to be in the business of criticizing people because then people use that either against me or against the company. I don't want to be known as the company that bashes officials. But I will say, man, I think in the future, maybe there's a way where referees and commentators can work together, where there be like a meeting of minds, if you will, for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, where you would just go over the rules like you did in media day, but more in like a private setting, and we're not going to be broadcasting it,
I would love that. Or have somebody at the state level, like you watch the ESPN games on Saturdays, and you got Bill Amanier out there, who's like the rules person that comes in and talks. You've got Matt Austin, who used to be an SC referee. He comes on there and talks about what's going on and gives you an interpretation. Somebody like that at the high school level would be great. I would love to do that, to be honest with you. I've offered to do that. I don't know, conflict of interest with me still being on the field. I would love to do that. because that's a lot of things. A lot of times we run into that, and then we got to have consistency across the board, though. We got to train our own first. We got to look in the mirror. You got to look in the mirror first. For example, I had a call for a school. I called helping the runner on one of the schools because 2 kids put 2 hands in his back. The coach said, I haven't had that called on me. It's week 10. He's like, the past 9 weeks have been the exact same thing, and I haven't had that called on me. So before I point fingers, if you always say if you point in one finger, you got 4 pointing right back at you. We got to get better as our own. And I will admit that too. We got to get better on consistency's sake. But at the same time, the coaches and players and especially broadcasters have to understand, kind of what we're up against, number one, and understand the rules and the rules that we're calling from, number two.
Well, Dana, I think it's very important, us as broadcasters, like you mentioned, that we do know the rules. Because when we're on the broadcast, I don't like to speculate. I just know, and there are certain situations like when the flag is thrown, when it's a run play and the flag is thrown, 9 times out of 10, it's holding. Sometimes it's on the defense. I mean, sometimes unsportsmanlike can go both ways on offense and defense. But, learning the rule book, learning like the hand signals, knowing what holding is, knowing what offsides is. I think it helps us as broadcasters. But I do like how like the Fox broadcast has got Mike Pereira on with Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhardt. Man, I knew the number one team is not Joe Buck and Troy Aikman anymore.
Right.
But I like that, having a former official also on the broadcast as a third broadcaster.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing too that helps out, you're Russell County doing PA. We joked about it off but before we started, the referee being mic'd up. People make fun of me.
I love it.
Yeah. The guys make fun of me because, Dana wants to hear himself talk. He's on TV. He wants to hear himself talk. Yeah. It makes the game, guys, so much freaking better when the referee is telling you what the foul is. And I'll come on and say, the ruling on the field is an incomplete pass, next down, whatever. I love doing that. It has saved my bacon in a lot of situations where the coach is like, what? And I can say that on the microphone. It saves me a trip over to the coach. It saves us time. We can put the ball down. I can blow it in, and we're good. We're golden. So I would impress upon any venue or school that does not have microphones for referees, buy them. It's not. It's more expensive than you think it is. Talk to schools like Russell County. I think Memorial. Well, does Otis Spencer have mics for referees? Are they mic'd up? Okay.
Sometimes they use them, sometimes they don't.
That's right. That's referee choice. That goes back to the referees too themselves. They got to use them. Otis Spencer, I think Connect does now.
Yep.
Any of these arenas, Callaway Stadium does too. I went and worked a troop game, and I asked the guy that runs it. He's like, "You actually want to use a microphone?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Nobody's wanted to use a microphone before." I'm like, "It makes it so much easier, dude. Just let me use it." So, schools that don't use it, invest in it, and it'll make your ball game and your experience so much easier.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And I enjoyed when you were doing the Lions, by the way, being the referee for them, having you mic'd up in there, and we were trying.
I can't talk about Lions on air. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Pass. Does Richard know that story? Does Richard know the? Okay.
Richard knows the whole story. And
okay, I gotta abstain. I'm in Switzerland right now. Sorry.
DB, we can't bring up Lions around DB. Just know that I got him in trouble last time, but it was awesome to be able to hear you within those games, saying the rules. That's why I was able to be quiet. You could hear it on the broadcast. And then instead of me wondering what the referee just said, how that went down, you just explained it to us, and then we are off and running. But Dana, what are some of the things you would like to see maybe at the state level that can help officials like you in your organization be successful, and maybe rooms for improvement this year statewide, that everyone can get on the same page like you're talking about, and that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing?
And I don't know who's in Georgia now. I know Kevin Giddens used to be. I think he passed away earlier this year, and I don't know who. Haven't met yet who's taken over that role in Georgia. But our coordinator in Alabama preaches being consistent. We have a mechanics guide, and actually a buddy of mine and I, we're going to work in the off season to have a video supplement for that mechanics guide. Kind of like I don't know if we're going to go out there with GoPros or what, but like here, if you're a referee, put a GoPro on you. Here's what you should see. Here's your field of vision. Focus on the quarterback. The referee, white hat's got the quarterback at all times. What do the guys on the wings have? Who are you looking at when you're on short wing? Who are you looking at when you're the back judge? What are your roles? Having that, number one, and number two, having on-field practice and experience. Getting that as an association, I'm just going to be transparent. We didn't do a very good job of on-field training this year, and that's one of my goals and vows for next year is to get these first, second, third year guys up, because we lose them not only because you get a coach in their ear, but because they feel like they don't know what they're doing out there. And by nature, the officials take pride in their job and want to do a good job. And if we're not feeding them, we're not giving them the information to do a good job, then we're failing them. And again, that's the 4 fingers back at you. We got to look internally at that. So I think consistent training, and I think we're getting there on a state level, at least in Alabama, Georgia, I'm sure we are, and just having some consistency across the board. Where if you get a crew from Auburn and a crew from Phoenix City and a crew from Dothan and a crew from Birmingham, you're getting almost the exact same. You're human. There's NFL refs that throw more flags than others, but at least you're getting a level of consistency across the board.
Right.
So, Dana, 2 years ago, Cedar Grove played Sandy Creek in the
Oh,
state
wow. Here we go.
You knew this was going to be brought up.
You knew this was coming.
Yeah.
GHSA implemented replay just for that reason. Sandy Creek wins the state championship. The Cedar Grove running back was clearly over the goal line, but they did not call the touchdown, and Sandy Creek wins the state championship. Still a state championship, but, Cedar Grove felt like they should have won the state championship. So the GHSA made, I'm not going to say it's a tough decision. I thought it was a very good decision to implement replay in the playoffs. How close is the AHSAA to implementing replay in the playoffs? Is this something that needs to happen, or what is your thoughts and opinions on instant replay?
We have it at state championship. We had the Super 7. Actually, I had the game last year with the most.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think I had four replays. I had 2 challenges and a couple of replays. So yeah, we're well versed in it. But state championship only. Alabama, if you remember, I think back in 2019, 2020, actually experimented with replay. And there were about 30 schools that did it. Central was one, Auburn, Opelika, they both experimented with it. The last 2 schools to do it, ironically, were Hanley and Thompson. Thompson, of course, the big school. Hanley, we actually do Hanley's game of Monroe and Oak. They were the last 2 schools because it's cost prohibitive. Think about, if you want to do it right, you think about all the camera angles you got to have.
All right.
So, Hanley, even at the base level, the replay system that a school like Hanley had was $3,000. And it was the actual interface, and you get it's like a little Xbox controller, really. And legit, it was shaped like an Xbox controller. So I'm doing fast forward, and I'm going through it like I'm playing, NCAA or something at home. But it had 2 views, end zone view and a side view, and from one end zone. So I actually had a challenge one game on a touchdown. Well, the touchdown was on the opposite side of the field. So I'm looking at it, and it's like I'm looking at 22 ants. There's nothing I can tell from that, So to do it right, it's cost prohibitive for a lot of these schools. So then again, if you're, back to Thrift's question, what can the state do? Defray some of that money and funding to get these schools replay, and then, we're good to go. Because we had good rules around it. It didn't delay the game. We said both schools have 2 challenges. If you challenge and it stands, you lose that challenge, and you can only spend 2 minutes on it. We can't sit there for 5 minutes like some, in some college and NFL. You can't spend 5 minutes on it, and, nobody's going to throw bottles at you like they did in Austin to reverse the call or anything like that. You got 2 minutes, you go, you make the call, you go on to the next one. You go on to the next play. So we tried experimenting with it. I liked it. I think it was good, but I think because of the lack of equipment to really do it effectively, I think the rate of calls that stood and weren't reversed was like 95%. So it didn't really work. If you go to Super 7, for example, where they have them. You have them in Georgia State that already set up for replay for their college games. Mercedes-Benz, Bryant-Denny, Jordan-Hare, and even at Protective now where UAB plays, they got all the camera angles and everything now, so they can do it right. So, have it at that when the blue map or red map's on the line or state championship's on the line. Keep that, but the lower levels, we got to think about a way to make it friendly cost-wise.
His name is Dana Barker. He's a good friend of the show, and thank you again for joining us, Dana.
Appreciate it.
Going back to you personally, man, you caught a Super 7 last year. Dude, I'm just being honest. I don't think anyone knows the rules better than you do. I definitely think
I would argue that. There's a couple of guys in our association that know them pretty good.
But you take pride in your work. That's why I respect you so much, Dana. And that's why was college never something you wanted to kind of attack? Because I felt like if you wanted to, you could be at the highest level if you really put your mind to it. Why did you not want to stick to that? And you made mention about this year, instead of focus on being at the Super 7, you're trying to get other guys opportunities to be able to do that. Why?
Right.
Kind of two-part question. Is that your mindset in to become an official?
You want the PC answer? You want the unadulterated answer?
I want your answer. I want unadulterated. I want the unfiltered.
I don't look like
Dana
an official.
Dana,
I don't look like an official. We don't have, and I'm just going to be honest, there's no 280-pound referees in college football or in pro football. There's just not. It's a matter of that. And it's, if I weigh probably maybe 60, 70 pounds less, absolutely. Number one, I don't have to look for it. Number two is a time commitment. All the things I do, my ADHD riddled brain, everything I do with weather and with hockey and with football, and my family, my wife and son has been extremely understanding about all that. And adding college where, I have a good friend that I think I'm talking about. I have a good friend who lives in Harris County and calls games in Alabama in high school. Yep. Sometimes he has to leave on Friday night to go to his ball game and come back on Saturday night / Sunday morning. I love him to death. He's and he does a hell of a job. I hope he gets a shot at a higher league. He deserves it. Right. But that time commitment, when I'm already committing to these all other jobs and stuff, it's not a good fit for me to do that. But number one, I think the showstopper is just I got to work on this. Number one, and number two is just the time commitment. So that's why I never, and I've always, run the clock at Jordan Hare is great. I've actually asked about maybe, what about replay? There's some avenues now to be a replay official where you don't have to be on the field. There's been replay officials now that they said it's like kids now that look at that play video games and look at these videos and know how to do all that. They're actually getting to be replay officials without having any kind of experience on the field because they have an eye for it. Then the second part about giving back, I feel like by nature officials are alpha dogs, and it's what can you do for me? It's Janet Jackson. What have you done for me lately? I'm kind of wanting to be the guy that kind of helps people along, and without, I always felt I got to where I was without stepping on somebody else's head to get there. And that's what I want to do. Help people in my association or around the state become better officials. That's why I'm going to do this video training we're about to embark on, and just helping people out. Going, observing them, watching them, where maybe if I'm not calling on a Friday night, I go to another place on a Friday night and watch how a crew does, go in there at halftime and say, hey, what about this? What about that? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And just help people along and, help them out that way.
Go ahead, Richard.
Well, Dana, I admire your work.
I appreciate it.
I've always been a fan of yours.
Likewise.
PA announcer for the River Dragons. We go way back when I was.
Hey, listen, go ahead and ask him a PA question and the River Dragons question while you're on here, Richard. You might as well bring it up. I mean, like I said, he could be a River Dragons analyst. He could be a high school football analyst.
Game of the year on Saturday. Biggest game.
Go.
The Athens Rock Lobsters coming to town.
Oh, see, here's the thing, because the Athens Rock Lobsters is now the River Dragons' new state rival. I mean, we finally have a Georgia team that's not called the River Dragons in the FPHL. I think this is going to be huge just for River Dragons fans because they're going to be traveling to Athens. Athens, the city of Athens built a state-of-the-art multiplex. That's where the University of Georgia plays their club hockey. I think it's going to be great when Columbus goes up there. But really, just the energy you have when you say, when they're on the power play, and you're talking about the penalties and the type of penalties that you have. Like, I know it's very important to know the rules of hockey, but what got you passionate about being a PA announcer for the River Dragons?
Oh man, this goes back to probably the late 90s, like when the internet came out. I was trying to find something. I was a nerd. I said this at Media Day for East Alabama. The reason I try so hard at what I'm doing with officiating and trying so hard at what I'm doing and grind so hard at what I'm doing with officiating and with hockey. Right. I was a total nerd growing up. I say I was a mathlete, not an athlete. I didn't have athletic bone in my body. So I'm kind of a late bloomer in terms of that. And I wanted to get into sports and be a sports fan and be involved somehow. First thing I did was I started writing for a online publication for minor league hockey. And the coach back at the time, Bruce Garber, we kind of hit it off, befriended each other. And the PA announcer was out one day, and it was kind of like the Wally Pipp Babe Ruth story, right? So like, I'm not saying I'm Babe, not comparing, but just saying I had a chance to fill in I knocked it out of the park. I don't know how or why I did, but it was one game I filled in back in the ECHL days, about 23 years ago now, and I did great at it. So then I became kind of part-time with Mike V. Mike V and I kind of split games.
Yeah.
And then when I had the opportunity to, I became the full-time guy. And I was now I'm the DJ too, because when I was PA, the DJ and I we'd kind of step on each other. And I was like, why don't I just do both? Because that way there's no stepping on each other. I know when I'm playing a song, I shut up. And when I'm announcing, I don't play music over myself. So, I mean, that kind of just cut it out. You know, I do both of those. And it's all about it's back to the servant's heart thing, you know, whether it's helping the kids be safe on the field, helping the coaches out, knowing the rules. When I'm doing my meteorology stuff, helping people be safe when the tornado is coming down the road. Yeah. Same thing with fans, wanting to get the fans the best experience possible, getting them hyped up, getting a loud Civic Center. That's the best feeling I had ever doing that was last year. We had a sellout. We had 7,000 fans, and you couldn't hear yourself think in that building. That was the absolute pinnacle for me as a PA announcer. So that's kind of how it started and where it's been from there.
Yeah, and by the way, you made mention about all the hurricanes that we had come through. You were one of the first that put stuff out there, and I always get my weather from Dana Barker. If I don't respect really anyone else. I mean, I love Bob Jeswald. I love WTVM's. Now I just thought I was about to say Kurt Schmidt. It is not Kurt Schmidt anymore.
Derek Kincaid.
Derek, I love you. Yep. Okay, I knew this. It's hard. There's been a lot of weathermen that have come through in the last 25 years. But
and it's not like Anchorman. It's not like we're a pitchfork between us being WTVM and WRBL. It's right. Nothing like that. Everybody's friendly. Everybody's collegial. You know.
Yeah, and I love that too. But the fact is that you do so much, and you're very well-rounded. I guess my last question. I'm gonna have two questions because I got to ask a little bit about playoffs coming up this year in Alabama. But for all those out there that trying to focus on one career path, when you have multiple things that you love to do, I'm in that same boat, Dana. Like know me, well faceted. I try to do as many things as I can. I don't turn a lot of opportunities down. If I feel like I can't do it, I'm gonna at least try it and prove to myself that I can't do it. What's your advice to all the young people out there? Like being a weatherman, being the voice of the River Dragons PA, to being a lead official. I mean, and then you work for the Auburn University too. Talk about why you're so well-rounded.
Yeah. The number one thing I would say to the young ones out there, don't start out for the money because it's not going to work. It will come. If you're passionate enough about it, it will come. People will pay for your services once you get passionate enough about it. That's number one thing. Number two, practice, and put yourself out there. Get a reel, get some kind of sampling of your work, and put it out. Put yourself out there. The people I know that broke in with TV, you would be amazed. They probably did 100 applications plus, and people were like, "What?" Yeah, you had to knock on 100 doors, and the 101st door opened. And that was your break. And that's what you just got to. That's just part of the grind. You just got to get out there. Josh Pate, good friend of all of ours. He had that show at WLTZ, and he ran it from that studio. And one day the right set of eyeballs was watching his YouTube, made a phone call, and now the rest is history. We all know how Josh Pate's doing right now. So it's just not getting frustrated without not getting that break. I mean, it took me a while to get the break in officiating, and I had to. Knock on some doors too, in terms of that I had, had the last couple of years, but just just staying with the grind, being passionate about it, knowing your worth, knowing the product you bring, and never compromising, always put out the best work you can and don't skimp on it, and be authentic as well. Be your own brand. Don't try to be somebody else. I take little snippets from people. I mean, I've taken, I watched James Spann's coverage of the Tuscaloosa tornadoes, and 4/27/11 is buried in my mind. I took some snippets from him, and I used that when the Borgar tornado hit, for example. But don't try to copycat. Don't try to, parrot a guy. Just take little snippets and become the person that you want to be. Become your own brand. Brand yourself.
I think that's a great point. And DB, always appreciate you coming on the show, man. And by the way, I keep saying this for everyone out there. Me and DB I talk to him all the time. We're always trying to get feedback from him. And I think now it will be 2 years in May. I sent him a message saying, hey, man, I'm going to go full time. And I think we need to have streaming and do as many sports as we can. Initially, the first year, it was about, basketball, baseball, and football. Now we're adding wrestling, soccer, and everything else. But I didn't have a name. And I could not I thought play-by-play live. I was coming up with the most generic stuff. And literally in 2 seconds of I sent some ideas to Dana, he didn't take no time. He came back, Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and I'm like, Jesus. Yep. I've been sitting here for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And he came it up quickly. All right, last thing, Dana. Can we throw it up there, Richard?
There you go. There you go. Good timing.
You got to throw up the logo.
They did, yeah.
There. We're going to go in depth about it after the break when we let you go, Dana. But I want to get your quick thoughts. Here is our top 10. We think Carver has the best chance to win a state championship. How we do our rankings, best chance to win a state championship in the classification. You see the 10 on there. Do you agree in our area, this is pretty much how it goes? Remember, there's an asterisk next to Glenwood. They're done with their season, and same with Patelli. Everyone else still has playoff games to play.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of the Georgia schools, so I agree with it based on what you're seeing there. And of course, for people that might be new, you're excluding Auburn, excluding Opelika, right? And just it's thinking of like a 19 school footprint, I think it is,
16.
or something like that. 16 in the rankings. So yeah. I think this looks good. Carver. Who's Carver playing? Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm gonna beat you to it. So I'm not gonna say who they're playing. I think Carver might have an easy pass. So I think you're good there. And Patrick Nix even said on his coach's show that even having the 3 seed was actually a blessing in disguise for them, because now they're hosting a game against Vestavia. They have a kind of an easy path to that, and kind of an inside baseball on why they're doing the pairings, why they're doing in 7A is because number one, just kind of get some parity there, because think about it. Every year it's been either Hoover or Thompson, and either Auburn or Central. Yep. No other school has been in the Super 7 since 7A. So they're trying to do some parity there and make things different. So, but then again, you got a massive matchup like Auburn-Thompson in your second round because of that. So kind of, and so that's kind of some parity there. Harris County, I think they have based on what they did last year, I don't know, I haven't seen them without Levi Watson. So maybe you and Rick can clarify on that. Russell County, they're having a heck of a year. They're fine. I think this is the first year, shout out Dylan Griggs, first year that the kids have been there all 4 years under him. This is the first graduating class that's had him all 4 years. So that's fitting there. And Brookstone, they always have a good, Brookstone Bocelli always have great programs in Columbus and Spencer as well. I would love to see a Columbus school finally run the table and get hot at the right time and bring a championship here. There's too many athletes here. There's too much good football here in Columbus to not have. It's criminal how long we've been without state championship in Columbus.
Yeah, 2007 was the last time.
Right. Yeah, Del McGee's Carver Tigers, yeah.
Yep. And who was at Georgia State. Richard, take those off because that was a quick teaser, everyone. We're about to talk about it in depth. Dana, tell everybody how, if they would like to be an official, how can they? I know you're going to have interest meetings probably here at the end of the year and ways that they can be involved next year if they want to. Yeah.
If y'all want to just hop my email address later on if you want to, or put it on the Facebook page or whatever. Big East, FOA@gmail.com is my email address for football. Big East, like the old college conference, FOA@gmail.com is what we call ourselves in the Auburn Opelika area. Hit me up there, and I'll get you in either. We help out the LaGrange Association over here in Georgia, so if you're on either side of the hooch, I can get you in touch with the right people to get you involved. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie. I've made some lifelong friends calling football on Friday nights. So we go after the games to Buffalo Wild Wings and chop it up and have fun. And there's great connections, great relationships. So it's not only just for the money you get in December that you can use for Santa Claus, but everything else in between.
He's always a lot of fun. We're going to be having you on, I'm telling you, probably in the next couple of weeks, talk some River Dragons. As always, man,
absolutely.
Thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you real soon here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show.
Sounds good. Y'all do a heck of a job. Keep it up, guys.
Thank you. That is Dana Barker, weatherman, voice of the River Dragons, and also one of the lead officials in Alabama High School Association. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about those rankings, preview the upcoming playoff slate, and see who's Richard's got winning it all this year on Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. We'll be back.
Georgia Alabama Sports Live wants to say thank you to one of our presenting sponsors, Buffalo Rock. and their partnership with everything that we do. And without businesses like Buffalo Rock, we wouldn't be able to go cover softball, volleyball games, every type of high school sport you can think of, local college games, and professional. So thank you to those businesses that support us, and specifically Buffalo Rock. And next time you're watching a Georgia Alabama Sports Live broadcast after a nice long day, why not enjoy it with a nice refreshing sorry? The best lemon lime soda around. Thank you to Sorry and Buffalo Rock for our partnership on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you to Dana Barker. Always have a lot of fun talking to him, Richard. Great question about replays, and looking forward to maybe covering some state championship in this upcoming year. All right, enough talking. Let's bring it up. All right, so Shaw did not play. They are in the playoffs, though, Richard. They are going to be on the road. We're going to be interesting who they play. Richard,
Carver, Atlanta.
Carver, Atlanta. So that's going to be a tough one. Carver, Atlanta, I think they're the top 10 seed from last time I saw in the bracket.
Yeah, they are in the top 10. They are ranked as one of the top teams in 2A.
Okay, and Shaw, great year for Coach Gardner, and I think next year, if they keep their winning ways, I think they could easily get to 7, maybe 8 wins next year and be one of the favorites in this region. Pacelli, kind of a disappointing loss, but what was an up and down year because of injuries. They finished 5-6. They did make it to the quarterfinals, and they did win at least one playoff game. And for those seniors, the final time they played on Pacelli's field, they won. That's a good thought. That's a good sign. And an okay year for the Vikings. Again, had to overcome a lot. 5-6 this year. They come in number 8. Northside season's done, 500. I'm going to be honest, Richard. They were one of my teams that didn't have the year I expected them to. I thought they were going to go 8-2. They were going to win their region. I also didn't realize how tough their region was going to be, which is one of the toughest in the entire state in 4A. But 5-5 this year. Great job by this senior class. They did a lot of winning. Remember, 2 years ago, winning a region championship. They were not able to make the playoffs this year. They were the 5th seed, but they did finish at 500. So 8 Northside, 9 Pacelli, 10 Shaw. And Shaw's the only team out of these 3 teams that has a playoff game on the road at Carver, Atlanta this Friday night.
Yeah, both Northside and Pacelli's season is over. Shaw, that is going to be tough to try to beat a Carver, Atlanta team that could possibly, I'm looking at some of the predictions. They think that Carver, Atlanta is going to face Carver, Columbus in the semifinals. I mean, just basically the bracket looks, if Shaw is able to get the upset, though, they will face the winner of Crisp County, Appling County. Appling County is another powerhouse in 2A that could win a state championship. I'm just excited about the brackets, Thrift. I mean, I'm looking at the 2A bracket right now. And, we know that Shaw is in a very tough bracket because they're on the quadrant with Callaway as well.
Number 7, Spencer. And they're going to be on the road. They were the 17 seed. They're going to be taking on the 16 seed. But Spencer finishes 7-3. I think they're upset's going to happen. Then they're going to have to take on, I think, is it the number
Rockmart.
1 seed? Yeah, the number 1 seed, Rockmart, which is going to be tough. But if there's any team that can do it, maybe it's Coach Kegler's team and the Spencer Green Waves, who come in at number 7, 7-3. This team, I honestly could have moved up, but Glenwood had a great year. They finished undefeated. They're an excellent team. And if Brookstone does win this upcoming Friday, I'm probably going to move them up into the top 5 because, again, how we do our rankings is based off of best chance to win a state championship, okay? Best chance to win a state championship. And Brookstone, obviously, Glenwood's out, so Brookstone has a great chance. I'm just going off of their season 2. Brookstone, big win over Stratford. They go on the road. They win against Bullock. They're in the state championship game. So 6 Brookstone, 7 Spencer.
Yeah, I like where Glenwood's at. I would put him right there at number 5 because they did have a very successful season. They just got upset in the first round of the playoffs. I do think Spencer can beat Westside of Macon. That's who they face next. Spencer is the number 16. Yeah, the number 17 seed. Their road contests, they are 17. Westside of Macon is 16. So they are probably facing probably the easiest path to mainly get an upset as a road team in the playoffs. But the path gets tougher in the second round. because you're facing Rockmart or Redan. I think Rockmart ends up beating Redan. Thrift, I do want to say that there was a team that we'll talk about that I feel got snubbed because, by the way, Carver plays Farrell, which is 3-7 on the year. I just want to let that sink for a bit, and I know people are. We'll save that for the next segment. 3-7.
And there's a team that should have definitely been in over them. I'm completely agree with you on that. And by the way, I will say this again, guys. We don't do head to head. I'm going to emphasize this to everybody that's watching. And I know our rankings. And by the way, thank you to Only Colga for sharing our stuff. And people are wondering, how did we have Glenwood ahead at Central? We are not doing head to head. Central, a 7A school, obviously is going to be better than a private school, okay, or a 2A Carver team. All right, we can't do head-to-head, or there's no way to do these rankings. You're going to do it off of highest classification and biggest school. They got more athletes. We have to do it off who has the best chance in their classification of winning a state championship.
No question.
Glenwood is out, but I thought they had a better chance than Central did, and they got upset. So we were wrong on that. They moved down to number 5. Russell County is number 4. I feel like Russell County being 9-2, and if they do beat Spain Park, they have a path to make it to the state championship. They had a great year. I gave Russell County a better opportunity than I do Spencer at winning a state championship just because of the path Spencer's got to take, even though I still believe Spencer can get some upsets. Brookstone's ahead of Spencer because they are 1 win away from winning a state championship. 2 wins, excuse me.
Yes.
1 win of making it. I want everybody to understand that. They have a better chance than a lot of these other teams because guess what? They're already in the semifinals. They win 1 more game, they're in the state. And this is what I want everyone to understand when we're doing these rankings off of who they play in their league, their roster within their league, not against everyone else on this list, and their chance to win a state championship. Glavis Glenwood, great year for them. I can't believe they got upset, Richard. I really was kind of shocked that game happened the way it did. Russell County wins a playoff game. They beat Spain Park. Why can't they go all the way to the state championship? They're in a tough bracket, but I like Russell County a lot.
I just want to see that matchup against Saraland. I mean, because we know how great Saraland is in 6A. I mean, you also have Hueytown, Miguel Tulin. I mean, you got some great teams in 6A. But yeah, I would not get intimidated by the fact that Spain Park is undefeated. Russell County is peaking at the right time, and Bryson Riggins, any team that is led by Bryson Riggins, I like their chances. I'm looking at the bracket. They're down at the bottom bracket. Saraland plays McCordry. They're obviously going to win that one. Hueytown takes on Spanish Fort. Pike Road, which is in Russell County's region, taking on St. Paul's Episcopal. I mean, we also have Oxford, Harts, the other side of the bracket, Mountain Brook, Parker, Clay, Chalkville. I mean, a lot of great teams in 6A. But yeah, Russell County's path just a little bit more tougher than, the top 3 teams in this ranking.
Yeah, and number 3, Russell County already won a playoff game. Harris County may not win one. So there is no really correct way to be able to do this, and especially at the bottom half of these bracket, North Apichelli and Shaw, you really coin flip on within their own classification. None of these teams have a great chance at winning it all, and 2 of them are already out of the playoffs.
Right.
But Harris County, they do have a chance of upsetting a number 1 seed in Creekside. It will be tough, but Harris County does have a chance. They come in number 3. If they lose and Russell County loses, I'm going to put Russell County over Harris County just because the wins and how their season went. Central, number 2, they dominated, and I think they're going to find their way in the semifinal, Richard. So they're going to stay at number 2. And the team that's got the best chance out of anyone, and I don't know how they weren't ranked number 1 in the
They
final.
are. Well, actually, in the final rankings, they are ranked number 1. It's just that on the bracket, they were ranked number 2.
But that's what I'm talking about, not the rankings. I know the rankings. We have them number 1. But the bracket has them number 2 seed. I don't know how that's happened. They should be the number 1 overall seed. It's the Carver Tigers. And I think they are on the path. And I look at their bracket to play in the state championship game. So here's our top 10. There is no great way to do this. It's going to ruffle some feathers, but we put it out there for the 16 schools that we cover. Here is 1 through 10. Any other final thoughts, Richard?
I do want to say that Central number 2, I really like where they're at because they have the easiest path to get back to the state championship, even though they were on the road against James Clemens, but they're back at home against Vestavia Hills. I do believe they're going to be on the road in the semifinals. The winner of Hoover and Opelika is going to have a higher seed than Central. So they're going to have to go back to being road warriors, but getting to Birmingham is going to be an easy path for them. I like this matchup with Harris County taking on a Creekside team that started the year 0-2. They were undefeated in region play. That's going to be up in Fairburn. Creekside, I mean, that is a powerhouse in high school football. When you think of Creekside, Eric Berry went to Creekside. I mean, they've had like great NFL players. I think that's going to be a tough matchup for Harris County. But as a number 4 seed, Harris County in a tough region themselves, I think they could pull off the upset against Creekside.
Yeah, I think so too. And by the way, you can keep this up there real quickly. Shaw on the road. They take on Carver Atlanta. Shaw's going to have a lot of things go right for them to upset a really fast and athletic Carver Atlanta team. And they're going to have to play time of possession, keep the ball at the hands of their offense, and just be able to smash them off the football. If they can keep it close in the first half, who knows what can happen in the second. Again, I think it's going to be very tough. But thoughts on that and thoughts on Spencer as they go on the road. And I am picking, especially when we do our game day on Friday, I think I'm leaning towards a Spencer upset, man.
I am too. I think that Spencer has probably the best chance of getting the road victory. And I think Brookstone can get the win over Bullock Academy on the road as well. I mean, we've got some teams that are playing it as road warriors, and not many home playoff games in our area. It's just Carver and Central that are going to be at home. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. I think Carver should have no problem against Farrell, who went 3-7. I'm still wondering about that, because Thrift. I do want to come out and say this because when I first saw the brackets, there was a team that got how did Hardaway not get in this? They were 4-6. They were projected. They were right on the cusp. They were right there in the rankings. I don't know how a 3-7 Farrell team got into the playoffs and Hardaway didn't, especially in the region they're in with Carver. And by the way, Sumter County ended up jumping up in the rankings too. I mean, so because they ended up winning out. So I think they had a little bit more tougher schedule. And the fact that they were 4-6 and Farrell was 3-7. I mean, I would have loved to have seen Hardaway play Carver in the first round. I think that they were deserving of getting into the playoffs, and they got left out. And another team that got left out in 3A, Troup County.
Yeah, and I know you're close to the LaGrange schools in there. Spencer, I think, can have an upset. Brookstone are on the road against Bullock Academy. It's a rematch of last year's semifinal. Bullock beat Pacelli 37-0. If Broughton Branch and that offense looks as efficient and well balanced as it did last Friday, I don't think there's a team in 4A that can beat Brookstone when they're playing their A game. Their defense loaded by guys like Mercer Hudson, Jakeith Tolbert. I like this team a lot, and I'm leaning towards an upset. If they can manage to run the football with Terry and Jones, who combined for over 200 yards, put Broughton Branch in positions where play action pass, he's not forced to throw, stay ahead of the sticks. They did all of that against Stratford. That's why they put up 33 points. I think they can do that again against Bullock Academy. And if you look at the schedule, Brookstone obviously has played way tougher teams than Bullock has. I think they're more battle tested. I really like Brookstone. Russell County. Give me your thoughts on them, Richard, and you can take the graphic down as they take on Spain. Do you feel like there's a chance that if Riggins gets hot, this offense is hard to stop, they could pull off the upset against Spain Park?
I do think they could pull off the upset against Spain Park, but we also haven't seen Russell County play a playoff game on the road since, I believe, 2013. So it's going to be a lot different. We saw them go on the road taking on Pike Road, and that was, Pike Road just overwhelmed them. Spain Park, they are a very tough team. They are one of the best in the state of Alabama. I mean, when you talk about powerhouses in the state, you got to put Spain Park up there with the Clay Chalkvilles, with the Saralands, with the Huey Towns. Spain Park out of Hoover, they just overwhelmed everybody. And it starts with their junior wide receiver, Corey Barber, who had 120 yards a game. I mean, he had just an incredible season, 17 touchdowns. He's going to be hard to stop. Russell County's going to have to get stops. I just don't see, Bryson Riggins trying to get into a shootout. He can. He is able to get into a shootout if necessary. But yeah, that Russell County defense is going to have to get stops in order for them to pull off the upset against Spain Park.
Central, they're going to be hosting Vestavia Hills, and I think this is going to be a smackdown for Central. After putting up 70 against James Clemens, Richard, I think they're going to have not a tough time with Vestavia Hills, who took down Mary Montgomery, who was undefeated and was at the number 1 seed. I like Central to win this big, and then they take on the winner of Opelika and Hoover. So sign me up for both of those.
Oh, man.
And they will be on the road, if I'm correct. If either team wins, because they are now number 1 and they're both higher seeds.
Yes.
Man, if we weren't out of town, we're going to be out of town, unfortunately, calling state championship games for GIAA. Me and Richard would make an appearance at Opelika. No doubt about it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, of course, we do have 2 games that are in the areas of Carver and Central. So the question is, and I'm not trying to tease anything, where's high school game day going to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. And if you want to find out, all you're going to have to do is like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to let you know. We will not be streaming, though, any playoff football games until maybe we're depending on what happens with Carver. Seeing what happens with Spencer. Obviously, we're going to try to stay at home, but we won't have any playoff games we'll be doing this week because of the rule of not being able to stream unless you get a contract with the GHSA.
And that's what we're hoping. Yeah, we're hoping to try to get a contract with the GHSA so the NFHS network can use our resources to live stream on their platform.
Or we'll be streaming on Georgia Alabama Sports Live here in the next couple of weeks, depending on how far Carver makes it. So make sure to tune in then. We got a lot of basketball this upcoming week. And also on Wednesday, we got our basketball preview show. Me, Richard, Coach Corey Black. We're going to talk about who are some of the top teams in our area. I brought in our high school basketball coverage, Richard, Central and Shaw. Shaw had it close in that first half, boys, and then Central put 100-piece on them. Central is good as advertised, and they are my favorite to win it all this year. And I know Jacoby Hill, Des Williams, Bryce Dawson, guys have been playing together for 4 years now. They want to cement their legacy with a state championship. But I was awesome to be able to do that. We got a great lineup for you tomorrow, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. I did run it real quickly. Carver's going to smash Therrell by 30 points. I don't even care about breaking that down. I don't think they're deep a point, and I don't know if they even let Therrell pass midfield until late in the game, man. That's how loaded they are. But Harris County takes on Creekside. Creekside, a number 1 seed, 7-0 in the region. They finished 7-2. Their 2 losses were to Westside, and they lost to a team out of DeSoto, Texas, 70-0. That's how good the teams in Texas are.
Yeah.
And Creekside is one of the top teams in our area. In our state. But I think if Harris County, and this has been their mantra all year, no turnovers, no silly penalties that puts them behind the 8 ball. And if the quarterback position can manage to make some plays down the field, get the ball to Ogletree, play smash mouth with Bishop Adams, I think Harris County has what it takes if they keep it low scoring to win a 21-17 game. Once it starts getting to the high 20s, early 30s, low 30s, that's going to be tough for Harris County going to be able to keep up with them. I don't see an upset. I'm not willing to lean heavily towards Harris County, but I would not be surprised if the Tigers pull up the upset against Creekside. They just got to play it ugly, and that is one way Tommy Watson knows how to win football games, is ugly.
Yeah, play ugly. Just try to play the game that you feel comfortable with, and Harris County should keep it close. I'm excited about just seeing Harris County back in the playoffs once again. And I know that it's going to be a tough task because Creekside is a powerhouse. But we shall see. I agree, Thrift. I believe that Carver is going to beat Thurl, and I think it's not even going to be close. And I want to just kind of preview the bracket a little bit for 2A, because Carver would take on the winner of Ringgold and Hart County in the second round. If they're able to get past Thurl, I think they beat either one of those teams. The team that's on the top of the bracket, Carver would have home field advantage in the quarterfinals because Columbia is the number 7 team. Carver would have home field advantage in the semifinals because the team that's the top of the bracket is number 3 Callaway. So we could have a Callaway-Carver semifinal at Otis Spencer Stadium.
And it could be on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. How about that, Richard?
On December the 6th, yes.
Yeah, sign me up for that for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, this week on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, today we were at wrestling, our second wrestling event we've done in the last 4 or 5 days. And we're at Pacelli's Red and Blue. Thank you to Adrian Anderson and the Nugents and for allowing us to be there for that. Enjoyed being a part of the Red and Blue event to kind of kickstart our coverage for wrestling this year. We're going to be at several matches that we can be. Tomorrow, we got flag football senior night. Shaw taking on Pacelli. Chris Gates will make his season debut, play-by-play for that, because I'm going to be at CVCC with Corey Black bringing in their second home game. They're 1-0 on this. They already won one home game. Richard, you will be for Creekside Carver at 6. And then we have Noah for Calvary Springwood girls and Calvary Jordan boys. Noah and Brandon will be there. So 4 games tomorrow.
4 events, yeah.
Wednesday, we got the CVCC Coach Show, Pacelli Coaches Show, our high school basketball preview show, Unsolicited Hot Take, and Unsolicited Hot Take, and Glenwood versus Lee Scott Middle School basketball. Richard, you will be there for that one. I'll be there for the boys. Actually, my brother's coaching the middle school team over at Glenwood, so I look forward to being there. You'll do the girls. We'll both be doing our preview show. It'll be dropping there at 7 o'clock. So if you're wondering how, we're going to pre-record that. So you're going to be able to see it live at 7 o'clock. Thursday, we're going to be live from Gator Jam covering that. Richard, you'll be on the call for flag football, Harris County, Northside, and Shaw. And then Friday, we got CVCC. I think, Richard, you may be on the call for that. We're going to be covering Harris County, Creekside. And then we will have our Georgia Alabama Sports Live show, Richard, on Sunday. And then next week, we will be at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC on Wednesday. We got a lot of basketball, flag football coverage ends next Monday. Can you believe that? And
I believe it.
We'll have a playoff game that Tuesday. So Monday is region championship, basically Columbus and Harris County for the region they're in. And then Tuesday will be Pacelli hosting a semifinal match to make the state championship again. That'll be on that Thursday. So a lot happening this week on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Make sure to like us and subscribe. Any other final thoughts, Richard, before we get out of here?
No, again, a great show. Just great to be back and ready to work.
On Wednesday, too, on Unsolicited Hot Take, if I can, able to get him here. Big Rich, maybe will help me with some college basketball preview because the Auburn Tigers, wow. We'll talk about that. But coming up here in the near future, we're going to have 2 days of Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. Me and Richard will be updating you because on Sundays now with football ending, we're going to be talking a lot of high school and college basketball, Georgia, Alabama, and Auburn. Keep up with that. Richard, we're going to also update you on what's happening in Columbus State Athletics. We're keeping up with Columbus State Athletics. It's a segment we'll have on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We'll also have a segment talking CVCC, and we'll have a segment dedicated to having either Tom Callahan, Dana Barker, or Brandon Swobo to talk River Dragon. So all those are going to be segments a part of our Georgia Alabama Sports Live show that will be at least going 2 days and maybe even 3 days a week. So be on the lookout for more content. And remember, we have the no Glenwood Coach Show, no Calvary Coaches Show this week. But we will have Pacelli Coaches Show and hopefully a Kudzu Sports Show coming up here in the near future. So, Richard, any other final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
I'm good. Well, I appreciate it. Just everybody that's been watching us and supporting us.
All right, see y'all next time on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show.
Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.